There are a lot of AI dev tools out there, but it's hard to tell which one you should use. Personally, OpenAI's Codex is one I find myself using the most often right now. So to help you get an idea of how it can be used for your projects and tasks, I'm going to show you the way I use it. In the end, you'll have a better idea of whether or not OpenAI's Codex could work well for your needs. Let's get started. The first thing we're going to cover is Codex Web. This is OpenAI's cloud-based interface for leveraging agentic coding capabilities from Codex. One thing to note is this is just one of the ways you can interact and use Codex, but I'll share more on the other ways later in this video. Now, I'm going to assume you have an OpenAI account already, and particularly with ChatGPT. Why, you may ask? Because that's where you go to access Codex Web. You head to chatgpt.com/codex, sign into your OpenAI ChatGPT account, and you'll be good to go. That said, here we have the web interface for Codex. Now, there's a lot going on, but the main area to focus is the chat prompt at the top here. This is where you can write out exactly what you want Codex to go and do in your project. Speaking of project, before you can get going with that, you need to give Codex access to a project. To do that, you need to grant some permissions to Codex on your GitHub account. Now, if you're signing into OpenAI's Codex for the first time, this may look slightly different for you, and there are a number of ways you can add those permissions to GitHub through here. I'm going to show you the one way that is typical for me now that I've already been up and running with it. So this is a good time to call out that if you're signing up for a new fresh account with Codex, you're going to need to upgrade to either ChatGPT Plus, Pro, Business, Enterprise, or an EDU plan in order to get access to Codex. So for me, I click on this project drop-down option here, and I choose to configure repositories on GitHub. This will bring you over to GitHub where you're signed into your GitHub account. That's the only one that is supported right now at the time of this recording. And it's going to prompt you to enable ChatGPT Codex connector on your GitHub account. Now, one thing, and this is just a general good rule of thumb with any of these types of connections that you might be adding to any accounts that you have, is limit the scope of permissions that you're granting to it. So in this case, instead of giving Codex and ChatGPT access to all my repositories on GitHub, I like to be very specific and select what repositories it can have permissions to. So in this case, I'm going to add a new one, AI code security project that I have, and then I'm going to click save. Then once that has been saved, I should see that as an option in here. Let's refresh the page just in case to make sure it gets those changes. And now I could see the repository AI code security. I'll click on that. Now we're ready to ask Codex to go off and run and accomplish a task for us on this project. Now, just note, this is just for a quick demonstration. In a moment, we'll get into more of the specific tasks and the approach that I take when using Codex. I just want to show you what it's like sending off a task to Codex for this new project that we added here. So I'm going to click send. You can see in the bottom right-hand corner, it says environment created. Codex has created a default environment for your repo, AI code security. To enable full testing and framework support, you can customize it with the languages and tools you use. And then there's an option to edit the environment. We will go and look at that in just a second, but I want to also show you that the interface changed a bit here, and that now we see under the tasks view, there's create secure Node.js notes app that I have. And in it, it's starting a container. So we can click into that now, and we can see that it has our original prompt at the top. And then there is some logs that are going on within the environment that Codex has created to work on this task in an agentic fashion. So while that's going off and doing its thing, let me show you what I mean by environment. So we're going to go back. We're going to click on this drop down again, and we're going to click on manage environments here. So essentially for each project that you give Codex access to, it will create a default environment. You can have the option to manually create environments based on those repositories as well, if you'd like, or you can configure the existing one. So in this case, let's take a look at the one that it created for AI code security. So here in this view, I have the ability to edit the environment that's being used for this project. It has the name based on the project. I can write a description if I'd like, but the more interesting pieces are the code execution configuration settings. It uses a universal container. It looks like they're going to have specific, more tailored containers available in the future, but at the time of this recording, there's just one default one that they have. However, you can modify the pre-installed packages that are used within this container image that the agent is running in, Codex is running in. So if you have a particular version of a programming runtime or language that you're going to be working within, you can switch to that. So in this case, maybe I don't want to use Node version 20. I want to bump up to 22 on that one. If you had any environment variables or secrets you wanted to leverage within the container, you can add those in here. I haven't had any particular use cases for that at the time of this recording, but in case that might be relevant to you, you have that option. It will cache the container too, so we can speed up container starting time. The reason why this is good to have on is for each task that you give to Codex, it's spinning up another version of that environment to work on that task in isolation. So you want this on so that it can work more quickly and you don't have to wait as long as that initial spin up of the first environment for that first task. Setup script is set to automatic by default, but if you wanted to have more control over what's being run at spin up time of that container environment, you can do so in here. And last but not least is agent internet access. Now, from a security perspective, you want to limit this as much as possible, but I found there are cases where I need the agent to go and fetch information about maybe my open source dependencies that I'm using or security issues, things like that, that are beyond the scope of the environment that the agent is working within. And in those cases, you can turn this on, and then you have even further control over what the agent is allowed to work on or have access to from there. You can make it so that it can go ahead and install the common dependencies that are known for the programming language and ecosystem you're working within. You can add specific domains you want to give it access to. So maybe I only want to give it access to npmjs.com and nothing else. And then what HTTP methods it's allowed to do. Maybe it's only allowed to do GET to read information, but not go and try and write externally. Because again, maybe you don't want this agent to accidentally expose your secrets or information about your code outside of the containerized environment that the agent is running within. And they leave a note here about enabling internet access exposes you to security risks. So you can read more about that in the docs about exfiltration attacks, which was what I was just talking about. Once you're done making all the changes you want to make to the environment, you click on Save Environment, and then Codex will use that setup and configuration you made for all the tasks it's going to work on from here on out. And with that, we've completed going through all the environment configuration stuff, and we can jump back over here into this task and follow along with the logs to see what exactly Codex is doing at this point in time in the video. But again, this was just for demonstration purposes. We don't really care what the end result is of this. I just wanted to show you what this looks like. Let me now show you how I actually use and assign tasks to Codex. The main way I go about using Codex via the web is by giving it scoped tasks and focused tasks. And I do that by creating issues on the GitHub repository for the project that I wanted to work on. So in this case, I've created an issue for this project and I called it Add to the Settings dialog to allow users to enable or disable showing the words on stream, or WOS here, and make sure to do all this, right? So I personally like to keep everything close to the project that I'm working on so that it's easy to find things and keep track of the progress of what it is that I need to be doing on this project. And that's why I go here. And that's why I open up these types of things, whether it's feature ideas or bugs, fixes that I need to implement. I open up an issue against the GitHub repository. Then I head on over to Codex Web to tell it to look at that particular issue and work on the implementation to address that issue. So in this case, back over in Codex, I'm gonna switch to that project, WOS assist, and I'm gonna tell it, please work on the following GitHub issue. And then I paste in the link to that GitHub issue so that it can go and read that information from that GitHub issue and make changes based on the details of it. Quick interruption, because I just got a notification on my watch about the other Codex task that was running, that it's done now. And this is yet another reason why I like using OpenAI's Codex, because I have the OpenAI ChatGPT app on my phone and it's hooked up to my watch, and I'll get things like that, a notification to let me know that the task is done. So I might kick off a task, go work on something else somewhere else. Maybe I'll forget about that task is even running, and then I'll get the notification that it is done and I can go and start checking it out further. But back to where we left off in the video originally. All right, so being that I want Codex to be able to access this GitHub issue, it needs to have access to the internet. So let's double check that for this particular project, the environment for it is set up in a way to enable that. All right, so I'm in the environment configuration view and I can see that it does have internet access on. It's unrestricted in this case because it's not really a mission critical project. It's just a fun little side project that I work on every now and then, and I feel comfortable with that. So the environment does have access to do that, and we're good to go. All right, with that verified that it's gonna indeed have access to go and get this GitHub issue, I'm gonna send the task off to Codex. Right away, we can see that new task got created called address GitHub issue number 38. It's spinning up a container for this, and it's starting to work on that task within that container. Really quick, we're gonna take a break from the video because this one is turning out to be a lot longer than I had anticipated. And so for the sake of time, we're gonna break this into two parts. So you finish part one, we're gonna have part two immediately available for you to go watch whenever you have time to do so. Link for that will be in the description below and on a card on the screen, so you can save it to watch later or go to immediately right now if you'd like. Thanks for checking out this video, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of it in part 2. That does it for this video. If you got value out of it, be sure to like it down below and share with somebody who could put it to use. And if you made it this far, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on upcoming videos. Thanks for watching, and happy, safe coding, everyone.